We should sort of caveat this with, because we've had this conversation on a different podcast, that you don't get into F1 unless you're ridiculously talented anyway.
Correct, yeah.
But it's then once you're in that bracket, and he's obviously in a slower car as well,
Yeah.
that's where it starts to get tricky.
Yeah, exactly. But again, you go back and look at his junior career, Logan's a phenomenal talent, there's no question. And we make jokes about all sorts of drivers in Formula One. Okay, there were some very questionable ones in the past, but this current grid have all won something at a certain level, and the level is just that high.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's finding it tough, but again, I think that leads on to Alex, because I think Alex is just doing a phenomenal job at the minute.
I agree, and my rating is reflective of that. I've given him a very respectable 7.5.
Really?
For Alex
Is that
Albon
it?
this season. Yeah, well,
Oh my word.
Okay, what are you giving Alex Albon?
I was going to give him a 9.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to the On Track GP podcast, where the man, the myth, the legend is also here, Richard Bradley. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good.
Good to see you.
Yeah, and you?
We had a bit of fun over the weekend,
Yeah,
didn't
had
we?
a good weekend. Yeah, we saw some crazy cars on Saturday, and you enjoyed the cricket, which I'm actually quite jealous of, to be honest.
Yeah, I had a good old go at the cricket yesterday, up the Birmingham Phoenix. But yeah, it was cool. I got to see you on Saturday driving about in a 1928 Aston Martin.
Yeah.
That was at Silverstone. Insane.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Against. It was a race purely for pre-war Aston Martin. So, the car that I was racing was one of the first entries for Aston Martin in Le Mans. So I actually did Le Mans in 1928.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And yeah, I was then ragging it around Silverstone for a client and had the time of my life.
We filmed the whole thing, so feel free to go and watch that. It was a good, fun day out. But today we're getting back into some serious mid-season F1 summer break content, and that is... And I already know, Richard, this is going to be like the sort of topic where people are going to kick off. We're going to rate the drivers' seasons up until this point. Now, main thing that I'm worried about here is thinking only about the most recency bias, we should call it, how thinking only what's happened recently and forgetting what's happened at the beginning of the season.
It's been a long season. It's been
12 races.
Yeah, exactly. You actually think about what was happening in Bahrain. A lot's gone down since then.
Exactly. But we're going to get into it. We're going to go through it. We're going to upset people. And I'm fine with it.
And make people happy.
Yes, some. Well, look, let's start with I'm not going to go through any specific order, but we'll kind of start with the teams towards the lower end and then push up, ending with Max Verstappen. You can probably guess what I'm going to give him. But let's start with Alfa Romeo and their younger driver, Zhou Guanyu. What are you giving him for the season?
I'm going to give Zhou a 7, I think.
Wow.
I think a 7. I think that he's not been far off of Bottas overall. And a few races he's been better. He obviously had that mega qualifying at Hungary, and the start he made the mistake at turn 1, but the actual reason he was in that position was not through no fault of his own. He's just gone about his business quite quietly, and I think for a guy who he's obviously come out and spoken about how he's a bit under pressure. Well, not under pressure, but wants a contract for next year. So there's some indirect pressure there, and I think he's handled it quite well.
Wow, you have been much nicer to me. I've given Zhou Guanyu a 5.
Oh,
I feel quite mean for doing that now. I think he's done enough to keep his race seat, as you say, for next year. They had that one opportunity where they were qualified 5th and 7th, and then he had the electrical issue, and then piled into the back of a few guys. In races, he's losing. He's finished higher than Bottas 4 times, and Bottas has finished higher than him 8 times. So Bottas may be showing a bit of experience. But yeah, you're going for a 7 for Zhou Guanyu. I'm going for a 5 for Zhou Guanyu. Maybe I'm a little bit mean.
Maybe I'm too generous.
Could be. Well, that would be unlikely because that's not you. Next up, same team, Valtteri Bottas.
I think same again. I think 7. I think it's quite clear that the Alpha, just they haven't got the package this year. Okay, as you say, he's doing a bit better than Zhou, but you can put that down to the experience that Valtteri has. And I think they're both doing what they can with the package that they've got. So
yeah,
again, a solid 7.
Alfa Romeo's in a weird place, isn't it, with Audi coming in? By the way, I've given Valtteri Bottas a 5.5. So again, a little bit better just because of his qualifying thing, but I would expect more from him because of the experience that he's done. They're in a weird place because 2026... it's completely rebranded to Audi. Will either of those two still be there, do you think?
Oh, yeah, I'm very, very sure they will be. I mean, firstly, On Zhou's side, at least, I'm pretty sure that China is Audi's biggest market.
Oh, wow.
But even if it's not Audi's, then definitely Volkswagen Group. There is a lot of marketing potential for them in China. And having lived in China for 3 years, everywhere you go, you see a Volkswagen Group car or predominantly an Audi. As an example, Audi have got the naming rights to the Shanghai Formula One circuit at the minute. It's actually called the Shanghai Audi International Circuit.
Wow.
So I think it makes sense to keep Zhou there. Plus, he's not doing a bad job. He's
Yeah,
not doing a bad job. And then obviously Valtteri, with the experience he has from Mercedes, and the fact he's still, he's been pretty solid over the last all the time he's been at Alpha. I think, he's the sort of guy you'd very happily have taking a manufacturer like Audi into it.
Yeah, so there's that sort of financial benefit of having him part of the team. Yeah, I think overall for Alfa Romeo, just quiet, isn't it? It's just been quiet. Nothing to write home about. Nothing really memorable, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. Just a bit flat.
Let's go to Haas. Kevin Magnussen. I am giving him a 2 out of 10.
2?
Yeah.
That is hard. That is way too hard.
Well, is it though? I don't know. I think look. Firstly, the Haas is slow. That car is so slow, and the tyre degradation is ridiculous. They're racing. But the qualifying pace has been good, and I think that's why I've given Kevin Magnussen a lower mark, is because Hulkenberg's been able to go and qualify well in it, not really been able to then make it stick in the races. But Magnussen hasn't been able to make it qualify well, so that's why I'm giving Kevin Magnussen a 2 out of 10.
Blimey, God, I never want you to critique any of my races.
Mate, it's just vibes, isn't it? I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I'm gonna give Magnussen a 4.
Okay,
so I'm a bit more generous than you, but I think for the reasons you said, he's done nothing spectacular to make him stand out in the race, but he's never put the car into the positions that Hulk has either.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and their racing has been even. They've won or outbeaten each other 6 times each.
Yeah.
So they're on an equal for the racing. But for me, it's Hulkenberg putting it in the position to go and do something special, but then the tyres not being able to work.
Yeah. I agree. I think that. That's the thing. If somebody's going to be able to create something, you'd put money on it being Hulkenberg over Magnussen at the minute.
Well, let's get into Hulkenberg then. I've given Nico Hulkenberg a 6 out of 10.
6.
My highest rating so far. What are you giving Nico Hulkenberg?
To be honest, now I've gone back, I'd probably give him too high for my Alpha rating. So I was thinking to give him a 7, but I have to score him higher than Bottas and Zhou, no question. So 7.5.
Wow.
I will give him.
I mean, the qualifying has been special. He finished 7th in Australia as well, so he has had a good season.
And he's raced solidly as well. He's not really done anything stupid, and obviously that car just has such bad degradation that there's nothing that either of them can do.
Yeah, blame Gunter. We don't say that very often. All right, so I've got Kevin Magnussen 2. Did you say a 4 for Kevin Magnussen? And was it a 7.5?
7.5
for Hulkenberg. Okay, cool. I'm just keeping a track of these so I can call you out on it later.
Yeah, you're going to call me out on the Alpha ones. That Alpha team was lucky they were first, man. Because I haven't thought about any of these. I'm just coming up with them as I go. But
let's go to Williams. Let's go to Logan Sargent first. And I've just remembered what I've written down. I've given him a 1 out of 10.
1.
God. I've given Logan Sargent a 1 out of 10. I don't know. He scored no points. He hasn't looked like he's going to score points. I think he's the only driver on the grid now that hasn't beaten his teammate in qualifying. He's maybe looked a little bit quicker over the last couple of weeks, or before we went into the summer break. But for me, nothing. I struggle to give any more than that because of the stats that are in front of me.
Yeah, there's been nothing really. I'm going to be again a bit more generous than you. I'm going to go for a 3. But the only reason I haven't given him a 2 is a break that he's a rookie.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable to take that on board as well.
But apart from that, there's nothing that I've seen to give any hope yet. But again, it's a steep learning curve, and he is improving. So we'll see if that continues.
Yeah, well, we'll get into his teammate in a second, but it is his teammate Alex Albon that's making him look like a rookie.
Yeah.
we should sort of caveat this with, because we've had this conversation on a different podcast, that you don't get into F1 unless you're ridiculously talented anyway.
Correct,
But it's then once you're in that bracket, and he's obviously in a slower car as well,
Yeah.
that's where it starts to get tricky.
Yeah, exactly. But again, you go back and look at his junior career. Logan's a phenomenal talent. There's no question. And we make jokes about all sorts of drivers in Formula One. Okay, there were some very questionable ones in the past, but this current grid have all won something at a certain level, and the level is just that high.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's finding it tough. But again, I think that leads on to Alex, because I think Alex is just doing a phenomenal job at the minute.
I agree, and my rating is reflective of that. I've given him a very respectable 7.5.
Really?
For Alex
Is that
Albon
it?
this season. Yeah, well...
Oh, my word.
Okay, what are you giving Alex Albon?
I was going to give him a 9.
Whoa!
Yeah, a 9. I mean, he's just constantly... You look at some of those amazing drives. Canada's obviously the one that springs to mind.
Yeah.
And he's constant, out-qualifying Logan all the time. His racing's been great. The only reason I wouldn't really give him a 10, to be honest with you, is because of the crash I think he had in Australia.
Interesting.
And that's the only reason. But what more can he do?
Okay, so you're going Alex Albon a 9, Logan Sargent a 3.
Yeah.
I'm going Logan Sargent a 1, Alex Albon a 7.5. You were disappointed with me for that, aren't you? I can see the energy of the room has changed, Rich, and you suddenly don't like me very much.
Yeah, exactly. It's poor guy.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to be like...
Are you Helmut Marko in disguise?
yeah, I just hate him because he's not performing for my team. Well, that's an interesting question, because if there's anybody on the grid that is deserving to be in a seat of a higher performing car, you could argue that it's Alex Albon.
Yeah.
And that we know that there's interest from Ferrari. Will the Red Bull team come knocking back on his door, do you think?
I mean, he left them on good terms, and they've all said that. And as I said, I know Alex a little bit, and I don't really see how you can have bad terms with him. He's such a nice guy. And yeah, you'd be stupid not to start thinking about him and looking at him. He's personable. He's very marketable, obviously with the Thailand connection as well, and he's doing a phenomenal job. And he's been in those big environments before. He's probably grown up quite a bit now and become a lot more mature, and he's still quite young as well. So it's not like you're taking someone right at the end of their career. You could build something around him.
Be interesting to see if he's the sort of driver that is performing better where there's almost low pressure, or it's that actually if he gets put into a seat where there is a bit more pressure, he rises to that and flourishes.
I think the difference is with Alex now compared to the Alex that we had when he was at Red Bull initially, was that you could see a couple of times of him buckling under pressure, but there's been lots of times that he's been under extreme pressure in this Williams. I.e., we look at Canada, and he's handled every single one of those times exceptionally well. So I think he's got to be in the conversation with the big teams. And to be honest with you, he's probably in a position where it's not just one of the big teams looking at him. It's probably all of them.
Yeah. I get the sense that there could be because it won't be long until we're into silly season, right? With drivers. It feels like there's so many, there always are so many rumours going around. But it could be a huge mix-up over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's very interesting. A lot of drivers haven't got contracts yet for next year. Yeah. I expect a lot of them will be trying to get them ironed out over this summer break period. The agents will be sitting down and twiddling their thumbs. But I think there's going to be a lot of movement, I think.
Yeah, and Alex Albon is deserving of a seat. Yeah. I stand by that. Let's
100%.
get into AlphaTauri. I know again, this guy is your friend, and I feel bad saying it, but I've got to give Nick De Vries a 1.
Yeah.
Again, the energy has changed in the room.
Look, it's I think he got dropped too early.
Do you know what, mate? I completely agree with that.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree with that more.
I think that wasn't ideal. But yeah, he didn't have a good time. Let's put it. It's as simple as that. So I would go with, probably a 2.
I think a 2. Okay, yeah, reasonable. So his quali against Tsunoda was he out-qualified Tsunoda twice, and Tsunoda did him 8 times. But I agree. I think because if you look back, particularly at some rookies in their first early season, Tsunoda, right, same team, same car. He was sticking it in the wall for fun, Yuki Tsunoda, early on, and he is now starting to show that the patience that they've paid in him is starting to pay off. And you have to think, would Nick agree? We know, again, he's one of those guys, you don't get into F1 unless you're particularly special.
That guy's literally a world champion. He won the Formula E World Championship. He won the Formula 2 Championship. That guy's a serial winner.
Yeah, I completely agree. Ultimately, I'm basing it off what happened this season. And
Yeah,
I have to
that's what the markings are for.
Have to stick with my one. We've got to be cruel, mate. And you're going for a 2 for Nick De Vries. Let's go to his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. As I said, I think there's something quite interesting is that it feels like some people were going, get Yuki out of an F1 car, 12, 18 months ago. And now, particularly at the top of the season, where he was like 3 11ths in a row and then got a couple of points here and there, that he's repaying the faith that they've shown him, and I quite like that.
And in what is on paper the worst car on the grid.
Oh, man,
when you actually look at it. And,
Trash.
they're quite aware of that. No, I think Yuki's done a good job. I'm gonna give him an 8. I think he's actually done a really good job. No,
an 8 for Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, I think he's done an excellent job.
Wow, I've gone for a 6.5, and I thought that was generous.
No, he's done mega. He's beaten both his teammates. Okay, in Hungary he got beaten by Ricciardo, but Spa he was ahead of him quite comfortably. He's taken the worst car on the grid into the points a few times. I think he's done an incredibly good job. Interesting.
An 8 for Yuki Tsunoda. Yeah. I've gone for a 6.5. But maybe ultimately a good season, good start to the season.
I think my alpha rating at the beginning has skewed it slightly. But
should we just put that one to the side? Do you want to change it? I give you the option to change it. Why don't you change your alpha rating? So you had Zhou and Bottas both at a 7.
Both at a 6, just to make my life easier.
Okay, cool. I'll change that. No, that's fair. That's reasonable. I think, you shouldn't be held to account for something that you said early on. I think it's good to change your mind. It's difficult to rate him, but let's mention Daniel Ricciardo because he is going to be finishing the season. I've just said sort of a 6.
Yeah, 5. I mean, it's just standard halfway thing because you can't judge him yet. It's not possible.
Yeah, he did come in very early and do a lovely job, but then at Spa it didn't.
Yeah, exactly. But you can, it's unfair to judge him now. Just standard run of the mill 5, I think.
Yeah, I agree. But again, sort of coming to the halfway point of these ratings nearly, it's difficult because are we rating them against the car or is it circumstantial? I think we have to go circumstantial.
Yeah, of course.
Right, that's why we're giving people like Albon, a similar mark to somebody that might have a lot more points than him later on because of it is what they're doing in their circumstances. Here's a team, and I just can't figure them out at all. Alpine. Yeah. I just, you were there, but you said it before me. We've got Gasly and Ocon. Gasly, I've given a 5. I think he's been really quiet. I was expecting like fireworks when these two came together, but he's a little bit just off the pace in terms of Ocon's pace. But their qualifying has been equal. I think they're 6 each for qualifying off the top of my head. But yeah, I've gone for a 5 for Gasly.
Yeah, same. I'm going to agree with that. Just 5.
First time we've agreed.
Yeah, I know. Just flat.
Yeah.
It's just flat. It just feels a bit like a pancake,
I wanted like... We were talking about, it's going to be the French team, French drivers, French revolution. They're going to be going to, and they're just sort of like, here we go, DNFing, whatever.
Yeah.
Not really making much of a splash, which is a shame because I would have loved some.
Yeah, of course, it's good for a brand like Alpine. It's nice to have a team like that. But again, it's just not worked. And then they went on this mass exodus of staff in Spa.
Yes.
So no, but Gasly, just 5, just flat.
As a team, generally, just before we get into Ocon, can you see them making a wave in the final? How many races have we got left now? Imola's gone and the Chinese gone, so was it 10 more races left?
I mean, if I were them, I would start looking towards next year already, especially if you've gone and done the exodus of staff. I think you've got to start thinking about 2024.
So you think they're just, we'll turn up, we'll see what we can do, grab a few points, but ultimately they're looking at 24.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting, very interesting. Ocon, I've gone for a 6. The reason that I've given him one more than Gasly is because of the Monaco podium, which was, pretty cool.
That was pretty epic, I think. I'm going to go with that. I think a 6.
Mate, we've agreed.
Yeah.
We've double agreed. I mean, this is out of I can't believe it. It's out of the stratosphere that we've agreed. Yeah, decent. Okay, great. So Gasly a 5, Ocon a 6, and we're both going for that. Let's get into the top 5 teams now. And again, this is where I think, I know on a personal level, I'm going to struggle to sort of not only remember the 4 most recent races or whatever, but let's go to the team that obviously I'm talking about is McLaren.
Yeah.
Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Let's start with Lando. How are you rating his entire first half of the season?
I'm going to go 7.
You're going for a 7 for Lando. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Tell me why.
Because I just think that the car was so poor at the beginning that they were just banished into oblivion no matter what they did.
Yeah.
And I know a couple of people in the F1 arena, and I spoke to them after the first test, and they said that McLaren is just so far behind. It's unbelievable, and it was really bad. So it wasn't like they were kind of halfway like in an AlphaTauri. They really struggled at the beginning. So we can't really judge too much from that. But also you have to remember, drivers also have an input on the direction of development, and they work with their engineers, they work with the designers, with the technical staff as well. So I think some credit has to be given to them for that. And the reality is, every time they've had the car that can perform, they've performed. And they did what they could with the equipment that they had. So I think, seven's
You've
justified.
gone for a 7. That's nice. I've gone for a slightly more generous 8 for Lando. I just think he's been classy, and particularly since the car's been good, he's and you imagine if they keep it good, or they keep the car competitive, Lando Norris is the sort of guy that will drag it into results.
Yeah.
He will. You feel the car's safe in his hands when he's driving, particularly if it's competitive. So that's why I've gone for an 8 for him. Let's go to his teammate, rookie Oscar Piastri. Shall I give you mine?
Yes.
I've given him a 7.
Yeah.
Now that might seem a bit low.
Yeah.
But the reason is, I like a stat.
Yeah.
Lando Norris is up 9-3 in races against Oscar Piastri. He's finished 9 times better than him, and Oscar Piastri's finished 3 times better. And in quali, it's 10-2 to Lando.
Yeah.
So there was always going to be an element where Lando knows the car better, and it has been in F1 for longer. But I think as a rookie, Oscar Piastri has done fantastically.
Yeah, I think he's done incredibly well. And again, I'm going to give him a 7. I'm going to give him the same score as Lando, because I think Lando's very underrated. We have to remember, this is the guy who effectively just forced Daniel Ricciardo out of McLaren. I think he's a very, very accomplished driver. And so for Oscar to, not maybe match him 100%, but to actually be on level terms with him and get there quite quickly, because there were times when the car wasn't performing, Oscar was very close, which again, because they were so far back, we didn't pay much attention to. So I think, again, based on the fact that he is a rookie, then the same score as Lando, 7, is justified.
There's people saying that he's the best rookie since Lewis Hamilton.
He's
best rookie season since
he's an incredible prospect. Prospect.
Future world champion?
Oh, 100%.
I completely agree.
100%.
He's got something.
Yeah.
And man, I also really like how classy he is in interviews and stuff as well. Like, he's so level-headed. Like, they'll almost sort of feed him a question that you could bite at or snap at, and he's like, maybe it's just his Australianisms, but he's so chilled out and relaxed and respectful, and I really like that. I've got a lot of time for Oscar Piastri, and I would love to see him win a championship.
Yeah, and he's a serial winner as well in the junior categories, winning from the off as well, and obviously he's got Mark Webber mentoring him, so he's got someone with a lot of experience there. No, he's 100%. He's going to be a future world champion. You can see why both Alpine and McLaren were fighting over him last year.
Now, depending on whether you are watching this or listening to this, you will see that I am not wearing a Ferrari hat today.
You've got the jacket there.
I've got the jacket. It's not mine. That's the studio's jacket. I'm not wearing a Ferrari hat because we had to do some ratings, and I couldn't bring myself to give the ratings low and wear the hat. So, Charles Leclerc, what are you rating his season?
I'm going to give Charles a 6.
I've given him a 6 too.
Okay, that's good. That makes me feel slightly better.
Yeah, I think it's just been so. Apart from Azerbaijan, where he stuck it on pole, in the sprint and the race, it's been meh. It feels like there's almost a lack of fire in that Ferrari team.
Yeah, and there's the sense of frustration coming in as well from Charles. It's you can always, as a driver, you always get told to stay as calm as possible, and you do have to bite your lip sometimes, and you do feel this frustration coming through with Charles. And he's just not done anything I would call spectacular this year, except for Baku, obviously, but. Yeah, apart from that.
But it was over in 2 days.
Yeah.
The Ferrari glory of this season was over on a Saturday afternoon or Friday and a Saturday because it was the qualifying, not the race. It's for me has just been just so unexciting to be a Ferrari fan. And I feel like that's the first time that I'm saying that in a really, really long time. At least, last season, at the beginning of the season, we were fighting, we were up and about. This season, man, we've just been like so depressingly midfield.
Yeah, exactly. It's just flat.
Yeah.
I think 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit better than the Alpines, just because Ferrari are a bit better and they're kind of there. But yeah, 6.
There you go. And for me, Carlos Sainz, smooth operator, my favourite driver, but I have to give him a 5.
Yeah.
I can't give him anything more than that.
I agree with that. Again, some of the things, it's he's not done anything spectacular, and I wasn't a big fan of what what he said about Oscar's move at the Source at Spa. I thought that was on Carlos for me.
I agree.
So I wasn't a big fan of that. He's not quite at the same zip as Leclerc. So yeah, I've got to go for a 5 there.
Yeah, and you're right about the zip. Charles Leclerc is up 7-5 in their racing head to head. I mean, Carlos has been a little bit unlucky. Thinking about, I think it was on Australia, he got that penalty. That was a 5-second penalty, but ultimately lost him like 12 points or something because he got, the race finished under safety car.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So I wonder for me with Carlos Sainz, because look, again, he's a good driver.
Yeah, no question.
There's going to be a lot of teams, maybe slightly lower down teams, that would love to have him. Does he go and be a number 1 driver at a worse team, or stay at Ferrari?
I mean, this is the thing: is that he's, he has got a lot of experience now. Remember, he's been with a lot of the teams in the pit lane. He's been with Renault. He's been with AlphaTauri. He's been with McLaren. So he has got a lot of experience. And if you are an experienced team coming in, again, we spoke about it before in another episode. The Audi links do make a lot of sense, and he'd be a good asset there.
He would be, I agree.
And so, I think that, I don't think it's all down. It's definitely not down to the drivers why Ferrari aren't performing. I mean, Ferrari just aren't, and they're infamously bad with strategy, and they're just not at the level they should be at. But an experienced team coming in, he'd be a very, very good asset.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Do Ferrari want him enough, or do they gamble on try and go full in for somebody like Lewis and get Lewis and Charles to be their pair?
Yeah, or someone like Albon, for example. Yeah. It's as we said earlier, it's going to be an interesting next couple of years with the driver market.
I think so. Let's go for Mercedes next. I'll start with Lewis Hamilton. 8. I think he's 8.
I mean, that's generous.
I really think that he's been quiet in all the good ways. He's been doing all the basics right, and that's my favourite thing in Formula One, doing the basics right. I think he's had a really, really good season, and I've been very, very impressed with Lewis Hamilton. He's shown after last year where it wasn't, the car was so bad, he's shown his class this year and how good he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been good, and I think he's extracted the most from situations. But I think 8's very generous. I'm going to go for a 7, to be honest.
Okay, you're dropping to a 7.
Yeah,
fair.
7 for me. Yeah.
When your reaction, I thought you were going to stick him at like a 4 or something.
No. No, he's been okay, and he's had some good races. And the thing is with Lewis, whenever he's been in a position to extract something or get the most out of something, he has. Especially recently, we saw it in Hungary, we saw it in Silverstone, we saw it in Spa. But yeah, just nothing utterly remarkable, and a 7. He's doing a very solid job.
Interesting. So I would look at that as nothing remarkable. Maybe in that car is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, 7, 8. His teammate George, I'm giving what can only be described as an ugly 5.
5?
I'm giving him a 5.
Wow, why is that?
I don't think he's electric for me at all.
Wow.
I don't think he does it. He's losing 3-9 against Lewis in their head-to-head, which to me basically says that there is we knew there was a 1-2 in the driver lineup anyway, but I just don't think he's doing enough to warrant much more than a 5.
I mean, I was going to give him a 7, to be honest with you.
Same as Lewis?
Yeah, same as Lewis. I think that he's had some races where his race pace has been very, very strong. He's definitely stronger in the races and qualifying at the minute.
Yeah.
And there's been a few mess ups. The obvious one to remember is Hungary. But I don't think he's doing that bad compared to Lewis. I think a 7 as well.
Wow. So we've got quite a disparity between us now. I've gone for an 8 for Lewis and a 5 for George, and you've gone for a 7 for the two of them. So who do you think's having the better season out of Lewis and George? It would only be a guess by like a 0.1 or something.
Yeah, I would say Lewis is. I would say Lewis is just because again he looks more solid and accomplished, but I see more potential in George.
Yeah,
purely just because George when he's been out of position in certain circumstances, but his race paces look very, very strong whenever he's got himself back into the position he should be in.
Fascinating.
So yeah, doing the basics right and making sure that he can just start where he should be starting all the time. He's been pretty strong.
Yeah, that's it. I guess it's the quality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's go to Aston Martin next. Fernando Alonso. Holy smokes, man. I'm giving him a 9.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. You have to. Again, we're looking at it. We're looking at it from the start of the season. The job he was doing there when Aston Martin was more competitive, but also consistently how he's performing against his teammate. He's the Albon of Aston Martin.
I love that.
I
love that.
So he's no, for me he's a 9, no question.
Yeah, I mean, but you talk about the beginning of the season particularly. Yeah, he got 6 podiums in his first 8 races.
Quite impressive, that.
That's insane, isn't it? Like,
and then other races where they aren't the fastest, he's always getting the most out of it. We think of Spa,
and that's the thing. It's a shame they haven't upgraded in the way that the other teams have. Where do you think Aston Martin finish out of interest? Constructors. I
think 4th.
Really?
Yeah,
I think Ferrari will do him?
I think 4th, yeah.
Or McLaren?
I think McLaren could. I can't see Ferrari doing it, but I can see McLaren having a very good run of form.
Interesting.
If McLaren didn't gamble on it being wet at Spa, they looked pretty. They would have been pretty impressive. And had it rained at Spa, they looked like they would have kicked everyone.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The sort of asterisk to them having a good constructors is the second driver.
Yes.
Which brings up Big Daddy Stroll's son, Lance Stroll, and I've given him a 2 out of 10.
2?
Yeah.
I mean,
how could I not? Because
I mean, it's difficult at the beginning though, because remember at the beginning he was injured as well. Obviously, there was a question mark over whether he'd missed the first couple of races.
Yeah.
And Dragovic,
because of his wrists, wasn't it?
Yeah, when I think he fell off his bike or something.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to look at and rate those because it's obviously when you're recovering from injury, you're nowhere there. But yeah, I was gonna say a 3.
Okay.
A 3, maybe a 4, but yeah.
Do you want a 3.5?
3.5.
Give him a 3.5.
Nice happy medium. But again, you're just looking compared to Alonso, who's just been nowhere. It's as simple as that.
Not even close. Again, more stats for you. I like doing my research stats. He's 1 to. He's out. Their head-to-head is 1 to 11. So Alonso's won 11 out of the 12 races between the two of them. I mean,
that's a pretty ridiculous stat. I'm going to go.
That's inexcusable for me.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5. I'm sticking with my 2.
Yeah.
I've got no shame about it. Come at me, Big Daddy Stroll. But he'll never lose his seat. And I don't know if there's an element of, because he knows he'll never lose his seat, he doesn't feel pressure. He doesn't feel the stress of, I need to perform.
I mean, when you listen to him on the radio, he certainly sounds stressed. He sounds like the most stressed driver on the grid. Maybe that's just his personality. But yeah, he's... But again, you still, when you look at Stroll, everybody always gives the moniker that, he's there because his dad's there. And okay, there might be a certain element to that. But again, this guy still won a hell of a lot on his way into Formula One. Yeah. So he is still a good driver. But I just think that the level of Alonso is truly exceptional.
Where do you think somebody like, because it will never happen because he'll never lose his seat, but where do you think somebody like Alex Albon would be putting that Aston Martin car alongside?
I think level with Alonso. With the form he's in now. With the form he's in now, level with Alonso.
And think about how much further they'd be ahead in the not ahead, probably in second place in the constructors if they have somebody doing a job in that second seat. So what detriment is he keeping his son there?
Yeah, but it's blood is thick in the water.
yeah, fair. Let's get into the top team. This one's going to be a nice quick one for me. Max Verstappen, 10 out of 10. We are witnessing history. And literally, because if he goes to Zandvoort, I think, is that when he equals Sebastian Vettel 9 races? So either equals it or he makes it to 8 and he's one behind. I forget off the top of my head. But he, in the next few races, could break the all-time record for consecutive wins in Formula One.
Yeah, you got to give him a 10. He's just been nothing but exceptional throughout the whole season. No questions.
He's put all his critics to bed. People saying, whatever, it's the car that's doing it. We'll get to his teammate in a second, but it's clearly not just the car that's doing it.
He's been on another galaxy.
He's a robot, man.
Yeah,
he is a robot, and you have to applaud it.
And I don't know if there's any. I think there's probably only a couple of guys who could give him a run for money in the same car at the minute, being Lewis and probably Alonso.
Yeah, I think those are the top 3 drivers, really, aren't they? Those guys. But I think he's the best driver in the world at the moment. I think because confidence is so important as well, and he's been in a good car. Even if you gave Lewis, I don't know, 6 months or something to get used to that Red Bull, I still think at the moment Max Verstappen would do him.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, obviously the continuity. I think if Lewis went into that Red Bull next race, I think Max would do him 100%.
Yeah.
And also apart from that, he's just on a good run of form at the minute. It's a bit like a striker when they score goals, and it just looks like they score them for fun. You know?
Yeah, 100%. Form is so important. So let's get into his teammate, Sergio Perez. Again, we have to look back to the beginning of the season where Sergio won 2 races.
Correct.
He's been under so much scrutiny since then because it's been trash.
Yeah, we've noticed every little thing that he's done versus, minor things that people have done in the back of the pack or the midfield. We weren't even noticed.
Yeah. I am giving him a dusty, ugly 4 out of 10 for his season, Sergio Perez.
I'm probably going to have to agree with that.
Going for a 4.
I'm probably going to have to agree with that just because of that awful qualifying run.
Man.
That alone. I mean, he won the races and everything, and that's what's helped him above like a 2 or something like that. But
yeah, definitely.
It's just he had that awful run of form, and it just damaged it so much.
It's awful, mate. And
then obviously the last race at Spa was he just had the floor wide with him,
Yeah, completely. If Aston Martin hadn't dropped off and Merck had started better, there's a very strong possibility that he would not be second in the drivers.
Yeah, very much so. Especially McLaren started where they are now.
Yeah,
it would
100%.
But it would be very, very different. But then maybe he wouldn't have gone after Max in the way that he did. And that maybe it's that pressure which caused him to struggle.
I mean, it's just it shows. I think it's only a good thing for Max because it shows how good he is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, Max is in the position where he could probably ask for a very nice pay rise next year if he really wanted to.
I think he's already the highest paid, isn't he?
He has to be. I think maybe Lewis is, but Lewis is different because obviously the marketing potential of Lewis is insane.
Max can demand whatever he wants and he will get it because he's delivering.
Yeah, exactly.
You give winners what they want to carry on winning.
And Red Bull realised that. And you see what they're saying about him.
Here's a good question to finish off. How or am I not going to be able to do it perfectly because I'm springing this on you now. I've not let you do any research for this, Richard, and I haven't done any research. How many or who are the drivers that if you gave the second seat in Red Bull to, so you've been off Sergio Perez, how many of them would do, or which drivers would do a better job than Sergio Perez in that Red Bull? Let's go through the teams. Lewis and George. I think both.
Yeah, both.
Alonso and Stroll. Alonso,
yeah.
I don't think Stroll would. Leclerc and Sainz.
Yeah.
You think both?
Both.
I think Leclerc definitely would. I worry about Sainz. I think Sainz and Perez would be similar. Lando, Piastri.
Lando, 100%.
Lando definitely would.
Piastri in the future.
In the future, yeah. Right now, do you think he'd be able to do it?
Right now, no, I don't think so.
Wouldn't be able to handle the car?
No, it's not that. It's just, you're still seeing the signs where certain situations where the inexperience is showing. We remember in Hungary where they went onto the, I think it was the medium, and he struggled. It wasn't the preferred tyre, but he struggled a lot more than Lando did. Lando has the experience to be able to drive around the problems, and I think that Oscar's lacking that.
An experience thing. Very, very, very interesting. Gasly, Ocon. I don't think either of them.
Not at the minute, no.
De Vries, Tsunoda, Ricciardo. I'm going to say it, Ricciardo. I think he would.
No.
I think he would.
I don't think he would. I think that Yuki would be faster, but I think he would crash more.
Okay.
I don't think he's as reliable.
Interesting.
Not that Perez has been the most reliable with his qualifying form, but I think that Yuki would be a bit of a dynamite in that seat.
Albon and Sargent, which of those two would do a better job than Sergio Perez?
Albon, no question, with the form he's in now.
And Sargent probably, we maybe say no to that one for now.
Yeah, I think no to Sargent.
Because Perez isn't it? He's not an idiot.
No, good. No.
He's done some incredible stuff. Yeah. It's just, it's
remember
not
winning from the back in Bahrain for his first Grand Prix win.
Dude, that's one of the great
all-time great drives. Yeah.
Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hulkenberg. Do you take any of them instead of Sergio Perez?
No, not at the minute.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Not at the minute.
I think I agree. And Zhou, and the very interesting one. Well, I personally say no to Zhou Guan Yu. No or yes to Zhou Guan Yu?
No.
Bottas.
I would say yes to Bottas.
I would say yes to Bottas
because again, we've seen him in that effectively he didn't want to be there, but number 2 role with Mercedes, and he was more than good enough on his day to give Lewis a run for his money and kept him on his toes. And this was when Lewis was in very good form. I agree. And our favourite quote or favourite stat, go on, give me the Bottas
and
stat. He made every single Q3 that he did for Mercedes.
Yeah, that's just
unbelievable.
It's out of this world.
And that's what you want from as I said before, that's what you want from your number 2 driver. Of course, you want them to think that they can beat the number 1 because that pushes them. And Bottas was able to do that in situations. But, you want someone who's constantly there. We remember Eddie Irvine when Schumacher broke his leg. Irvine was able to take the fight to Hakkinen for the championship. Barrichello was Schumacher again. Coulthard and Hakkinen. You always want that very, very solid backup driver.
And teams make their money from the constructors, not from the drivers. That's where the money is.
That's where the money is. So the constructors is absolutely vital for them.
Well, look. I think we've put the world to right, mate. We've given some pretty dodgy numbers.
Yeah, some dodgy numbers. Yeah,
myself personally.
I corrected my Alfa Romeo ones.
Yeah, you fixed that. Kevin Magnussen at a 2 is something I think I'll be regretting for a few months, but never mind. We move on.
It, mate.
Feel free to drop us, roast us, or agree with us in the comments what you think these drivers' ratings should have been at the midway point of the season. It'll be interesting to revisit this at the end of the season and think who upped their game, who fell off, and that kind of thing.
Report cards.
So yeah, really interesting, mate. Thank you so much for your time.
No,
Richard.
pleasure.
Appreciate it as always. And we will be back with some more Formula One motorsport driving content soon. Thanks very much. We'll see you soon. We are On Track GP. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon.